Guys, back again. We're going to read our story now. So this one is called From Seed to Plant by Gail Gibbons, and she is actually the author and the illustrator. So she had a super busy time doing this book. And it says she was a very curious child. Her parents say she was always asking a lot of questions. She also loved to draw and paint. One of her first jobs was doing artwork for a children's television show. After that, she wrote her first book. Since then, she has written more than 135 books. It's a lot of books. She loves her job because she still likes to ask questions. She finds the answers and then writes about them in her books. And the story is informational text, so it's just going to be giving us facts about how seeds grow into a plant. If you want to follow along with me, we are on 348. It's where the story starts, and then if you turn, that's where we're actually going to start reading. There are also some kind of diagrams or information captions throughout the story, so those are also really important to read as we're going through the story. It says, most plants make seeds. A seed contains the beginning of a new plant. Seeds are different shapes, sizes, and colors. All seeds grow into the same kind of plant that made them. Many plants grow flowers. Flowers are where most seeds begin. Okay, so something that all seeds have in common is that they all grow into whatever they started out as. So if you get a seed from a kidney bean, it's going to make a kidney bean plant. If you get a seed from an apple, it's going to make an apple plant. Okay, so they all come from, or they all grow into whatever they came from. If you've ever planted a garden or opened up seeds before, it is kind of cool to look at what the seeds look like before you plant them because they do look completely different. They're different colors, so that's really cool to look at. A flower is made up of many parts, and then we're going to start at the bottom and go around like a clock. So at the bottom of the pistil are tiny egg cells called ovules. Okay, and you can see, now you wouldn't typically be able to see this in a plant. They've kind of opened it up so we can see all those tiny little dots in there. So those are all little ovules or egg cells. In the center of the flower is the pistil. So that's what is going to come up through the flower. You could see it if you were looking into a flower. The sticky part at the top of the pistil is the stigma. So that might be what a bee or a butterfly lands on. Stamens make yellow powder called pollen. Okay, so the pistil is thicker, and then we have these little skinnier ones coming off that you can see in the picture, and those would be the stamens that make some of the sticky pollen. The parts of the flower around the pistil are the stamens, which we just talked about. And then we have the stem that goes into the ground, and then the sepal are those two leaves right under the flower that you can see, and then the petal at the top of the flower, okay? So a lot of parts, even though a flower really isn't that big. Go ahead and turn. Before a seed can begin to grow, a grain of pollen from the stamen must land on the stigma at the top of the pistil of a flower like itself. This is called pollination. Pollination happens in different ways. Often, the wind blows the pollen from flower to flower. Bees, other insects, and hummingbirds help pollinate too. While they visit flowers for their sweet juice called nectar, pollen rubs onto their bodies. Then they carry the pollen to another flower where it comes off onto its pistil. So these animals, these bees and insects, they're not necessarily trying to move the pollen, but it's so sticky that it sticks to them when they land on the flower. And then when they land on another one, some of that rubs off, kind of like our germs. We don't mean to get germs, but when we touch something and then something else, some of them come off. Okay, so just like that. Also, if you noticed, it said the pollen has to land on a plant like itself. So if pollen from an apple tree lands on a pea plant, they're not going to make anything. It has to be the same plant. If a pollen grain from a flower lands on the pistil of the same kind of flower, it grows a long tube through the pistil into an ovule. This is the beginning of a seed. The seeds grow inside the flower, even as the flower begins to die. As the seeds become bigger, a fruit or pod grows around them. The fruit or pod protects the seeds. So just like if you've ever eaten beans or peas and you open it up, you can see all the little peas or beans inside there, okay? So what's keeping that in there is the pod. It's protecting the fruit or the vegetable, whatever is inside of it. When the fruit or pod ripens, it breaks open. The seeds are ready to become new plants. Some seeds fall to the ground around the base of the plant where they will grow. Some pods or fruits open and the seeds pop out. Sometimes when birds eat berries, they drop the seeds. Other seeds fall into streams, ponds, rivers, or the ocean. There, they travel on the water until they stick to dirt along the shore. The wind scatters seeds. Some seeds have fluff on them that lets them float to the ground like tiny parachutes. Others have wings that spin as they fall. Okay, so you've all seen the white, losing track of my mind, the white little flowers, you blow on them and then they go everywhere, okay? Those have little seeds on the bottom. Or the little helicopters, if you throw them up, they spin to the ground, okay? That's another type of seed. So all of these seeds travel different ways to end up to find a spot to grow. Animals help scatter seeds too. They hide acorns and nuts in the ground. Some seeds have hooks that stick to the fur of animals or people's clothes. Later, they drop off onto the ground. So just like when we went on our field trip to Riverbend and you guys practiced hiding the beans, like squirrels would hide nuts, and some of them didn't get found. The ones that don't get found might grow into another tree, okay? If you've ever been hiking or walking in really tall grass, lots of times there will be burrs, they're called. They're really kind of pokey and sticky, and they stick to your clothes if you have on pants. Eventually those will come off and they could grow somewhere else. So humans help move seeds too. A flower bed or vegetable garden is beautiful. Seeds are planted to grow in the garden. The seeds come in small envelopes or boxes. Directions explain how to plant the seeds and care for the plants. So a lot of people think all seeds are the same and they're not. Some need to be close together. Some need to be really far apart. Some need to be kind of really far down in the dirt. Some need to be closer to the top. Some you want to plant in the sun. Some you want to plant in the shade. So when you're buying seeds, you can't just plant them wherever because they might not make it into an adult plant. So you want to make sure that you read the directions on those. The beginning of a plant is curled up inside each seed. Food is stored inside the seed too. The seed has a seed coat on the outside to protect it. This picture should look familiar from your science packet. You can see all the things that you had done on your worksheet. A seed will not sprout until certain things happen. First, it must be on or in the soil. Then it needs rain to soak the seed and soften the coat. When the sun shines and warms the ground, the seed coat breaks open and the seed begins to grow. This is called germination. A root grows down into the soil, and the root takes in water and minerals from the soil for food. Remember, that food that's in the seed doesn't last very long, so once those roots start going down, it's got a really important job. Up grows a shoot. Green leaves grow up from the shoot toward the sun, and remember, it always starts out with 2 leaves. The plant grows bigger and bigger. The leaves make food for the plant from the water and minerals in the soil, the sunlight, and the air all around the plant. So even before it gets very big, there's a lot of things happening to help it survive, which is why lots of times plants don't make it into an adult plant because all of these things haven't happened. Finally, the plant is full grown. Buds on the plant open into flowers where new seeds will grow. Okay, so those flowers always come out before the plant, just like when we did our unit on pumpkins. Those bright yellow flowers came out and then they turned into a pumpkin. Many of the foods people eat are seeds, fruits, and pods. They are full of nutrition, vitamins, and minerals, and they are tasty too. All right, and then on the last page, this is part of the story, but it's also kind of separate. It says a From Seed to Plant project. So if you have extra time in the materials, you could do this at home, which is really cool. So it says how to raise bean plants. Find a clean glass jar and take a piece of black construction paper and roll it up. Slide the paper into the jar and then fill the jar with water. Wedge the bean seeds between the black paper and the glass and put it in a warm spot. So that black paper doesn't necessarily have to be black, but black is really good at absorbing heat. In a few days, the seeds will begin to sprout, and you'll be able to watch the roots going down and the shoots coming up. So if you have these, you could do that. Then once they start growing, you would put dirt into a big pot and carefully remove the plants. Remember, just like a baby that you have to be really careful with, these plants aren't full grown, so you have to be really careful when you put them into the new soil and kind of cover them up a little bit. And hopefully, if you keep watering them and giving them sunlight, they would continue to grow. So if you decide to do this, let me know, and you can keep me posted on how your plants are doing. Okay, and I will have one more video that goes over our short story for the week, but hopefully you enjoyed this one.